Hello BookTube. Today I'm going to be doing the Penguin Classics tag. The tag was created by Steve Donahue and he tagged everybody. So I'm doing the tag. Even if my Penguin Classic collection is rather paltry. So, question number 1. Penguin Classics are the best reprint volumes in the whole world. How many do you currently own? 8. I have 8. Plus this catalog of all of the Penguin Classics up to 2016. Put that over there. Okay, 2. Penguins evolved roughly 17 million years ago. What's your history with Penguin Classics? So, the first Penguin Classic I ever bought is this edition of Aeschylus's The Oresteia. I picked it up from Barnes & Noble probably sometime in my high school years. But I didn't actually read it until probably sometime in college. Quite enjoyable when I finally did get around to reading it. The next pair of Penguin Classics I bought are their editions of the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. So originally the editions of the Iliad and the Odyssey that I owned were the Barnes & Noble Classics. They were hardcover with the dust jacket that you could find in the bargain area of Barnes & Noble. They were 1800s, 19th century editions. They were translated by Burton and were in prose. And occasionally forgot to switch from the Roman to the Greek. And so I had these copies in high school and stuck with them through midway through college. Even used the Iliad edition for a class in my freshman year. And then I took a class in Greek mythology and I decided to just get these Fagel translations. And I really love these significantly more than I do the Barnes & Noble Classic ones. I'm working on a pyramid over here. Okay, so from there, I picked up Apollonius of Rhodes' Argo. And this is a very old Penguin Classic. So I picked this one up in San Francisco. So one of the neat things about San Francisco State University is, at least at the time I was there, I don't know if it's still there, there is a book room in one of the buildings. I want to say it was like the social sciences building. On the first floor, there's a book room where they have used books for sale. I don't know if I'm assuming it was some charity thing to support like the library or something. And I'd go in there a few times a week. And I'd browse and see what all they had. And I found this edition of the Argonautica, my edition of Hesiod, and I want to say it's from 2 Boys. Or I think the 3 that I remember for sure being there. So, yeah. Enjoyable. Next, I want to say I bought Edmund Spenser's The Faerie Queene. So I first discovered the Faerie Queene in English Lit 1. We read like the first canto. And then for a specific Renaissance class, we read the whole of Book 1. And quite enjoyed it, and I wanted an edition ever since. So I was at Barnes & Noble one day, saw this, and decided to jump on it. And I'm quite happy I have it. Although I have never actually gone through and read the whole of the Faerie Queene. Next, I want to say I picked up The Moonstone by Wilkie. So, let's see, I first read The Moonstone in 8th grade when I was on my mystery kick and loved it. And then I reread it about a decade later, give or take, from the local library. And I enjoyed it again, and so I wanted a copy of myself. And I was at Golden's. I went to Golden's a few years later, saw this copy and picked it up. Although my last rereading was not too positive, so yeah. But I'll give it another go, probably in October. So the next book I picked up, also from Golden's Book Exchange, is Chretien de Troyes' Arthurian Romances. So these are the romances that would have inspired Mallory's Le Morte d'Arthur, which I have, but it's in a Everyman Library edition. And so I've always been interested in the Arthurian romances, and I've wanted to read more of them than just Le Morte d'Arthur. So I've been on the lookout for Arthurian romances and saw this at Golden's and picked it up. And finally, my most recent acquisition of Penguin Classics is, and my favorite, is Clark Ashton Smith's The Dark Eidolon and Other Fantasies. This is probably a newer addition to the Penguin Classic lineup. So I don't quite remember where I first discovered Clark Ashton Smith. I'm pretty sure it had to have been like on Blackgate or something, in conversation with Lovecraft and Howard, and I'm like, I ought to check him out. So I went to an online site where it has all of his work collected, The Dark Eidolon. Read his story, really enjoyed it, so then I looked to see if he had any collections, and I found one, The Return of the Sorcerer, that my library was supposed to have, but apparently got stolen before I requested it. So I interlibrary loaned it a few times, and then a few years passed. I also discovered that this book was in existence, and then late in 2018, early 2019, I finally decided it's time to get me some Clark Ashton Smith collection. So I bought the Lost Worlds collection, The Return of the Sorcerer, and this Penguin Classic edition. This one from Amazon. The other two I bought used. One, I don't quite remember who I bought it from, and The Return of the Sorcerer I bought from Pal City of Books. Excuse me. Yeah, those are all my Penguin Classics. So question number 3. The Penguin Classic logo is, of course, a penguin, the world's most famous flightless bird. What's a classic that just didn't take flight for you? I'm going to say Pride and Prejudice. I just found that one to be rather annoying. Also, so it's definitely, I would say, Pride and Prejudice. I've tried to read The Bostonians, and I've never quite gotten on with that. Oh yes, and Winter's. No, I don't know if I've ever actually tried that one. Definitely Cymbeline by William Shakespeare. I hate that book. I hate that play with a passion. Just, the later Shakespeare is at times iffy. But anyway, okay. So, prompt number 4. The emperor penguin is the most recognizable species, but the Adelie is everybody's favorite. Well, if that's everybody's favorite, why isn't that the one that's most recognizable? Anyway, what's your favorite penguin classic? Okay. Question number 5. Penguin classics began in 1946 with E.V. Rieu's translation of the Odyssey. What's your favorite book from 1946 or the 1940s in general? I'm going to go with All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren. I read that book, it's been quite some time. Really want, I think, to add it to my collection when I get around to restarting the literary, realistic part of my collection. Other books from the 40s I really enjoyed, Evil Under the Sun by Agatha Christie and The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie. Number 6. Penguin Classics tries to enshrine the classics of literature. Name some books you'd like to see enshrined. I will echo Steve's comment on or call for Robert E. Howard to be added in Penguin Classics editions. And honestly, how his works are not yet in the public domain is beyond me. I mean, it's going on like 85 years since his death. I mean, the copyright should be running out on his original works. And even if there's some kind of trademark sort of thing that whoever owns the rights to Conan is doing, like how Disney does Mickey Mouse and obviously the superheroes of DC. I mean, those works really should be coming into the public domain, to be honest. So I would love to see a collected edition of Conan's, of Robert E. Howard, definitely Conan, but all of Robert E. Howard. I'd also love to see all of Virginia Woolf, William Faulkner, Tennessee Williams, eventually Neil Simon, I think would be good. John Ritchie. Jean Genet. I'd like to see Anne Sexton. The Journey to the West. Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I think definitely should be in Penguin Classics. Sylvia Plath. Yeah, a whole bunch of writers probably should be in Penguin Classics and eventually will be once either their works come into copyright or Penguin gets the rights to them. Anyway, and finally, tag people who's in your waddle. Well, Steve's already tagged everybody, so if you want to do this tag, you're tagged. So now, before I sign off, I'm going to do the pyramid. And hopefully I can do this long enough for this to be the thumbnail. So that was the Penguin Classics tag. Thank you and have a great day, BookTube, and stay safe.